It is Wednesday, February 26, 2020, and you are tuned into DIRTRACKR Daily. I'm Justin Fiedler. Welcome to a new show, a new day, halfway to the weekend here. Still not a lot of racing action going on. I've been kind of talking about it lately, but we're getting closer. There's some stuff going on this weekend that we will talk about as we go as well. So stay patient. Racing is coming back. Get you started with a little bit of a few news items this morning. Due to a scheduling conflict with the Calistoga High School graduation ceremony, the June 13th NARC King of the West race at Calistoga has been canceled. No replacement date will be added in its place. There was some talk in the release about that June 13th date maybe being a rain date for other shows. So keep that in the back of your mind. If you have questions or would like to see more about that, you can visit narc410.com. Speaking of California, Speed Shift will show every race of the 2020 Sprint Car Challenge Tour live. The Sprint Car Challenge Tour is a winged 360 series racing around California. Kyle Hurst was the 2019 champion. The first race is March 28th at Placerville. And I probably should have had let me go jump and just give you their website address as well. I should have had this up. If you would like to get more information about the Sprint Car Challenge Tour, you can visit sprintcarchallengetour.com. You can check out the full schedule and past points and things like that, and guys who will be competing in that series. The 22nd season of the U.S. MTS National Championship gets underway this weekend. The series heads to I-37 Speedway on Friday, South Texas Speedway on Saturday, and Cotton Bowl Speedway on Sunday. The swing through Texas continues March 5th through the 7th for the Spring Nationals at Big O Speedway. 2019 series champion was Rodney Sanders. He had an incredible 10 wins in 39 starts. Pretty good season there for Rodney Sanders. You can watch all of those shows live on racindirt.tv. Racindirt does a great job covering a lot of those modified series and categories and things like that. So check them out just for general news and things like that as well. I talked about driver analytics yesterday, some of my sprint car rating stuff that I was working on. I made some adjustments to that stuff yesterday or last night, and I just kind of wanted to mention that real quick. I went ahead, I talked yesterday about doing some limiting on which drivers would appear, so I went ahead and put a 10 race cap. So you have to have competed in at least 10 races over the course of the season, and this isn't really a season right now. It's kind of literally everything I have in the database, but right now, you have to have competed in a minimum of 10 races over the last 90 to be included in the sprint car ratings. I will get these live on the site probably today sometime if I have time. But so now you have a minimum of 10 races. I made a couple of other adjustments. I realized I had a couple of errors that I needed to work through. But looking through the top 10, Brad Sweet is the number one driver in the rating. And just if you missed yesterday, the explanation of the rating system is basically I'm taking your qualifying position, your heat race position, and then any feature positions, whether it's in the feature, LCS, C main, D main, E main, all the way down, and adding those together to kind of get an aggregate number. And then I added that up over the course of all of the races in the database and then averaged it out. So right now, Brad Sweet is at the top of that list. He has a score of 14.08. It's 0.079, and then continues on from there. But I'll pare that down. So Brad Sweet is the highest rated driver. David Gravel is actually second over Donnie Schatz. He is like merely percentage points ahead, but interesting to take a look at that. So Brad Sweet, David Gravel, Donnie Schatz, Darren Pittman, Logan Schuchart, your top 5. Then Christopher Bell, Ian Matson, Joey Saldana, Carson Macedo, Lance DeWeese, your top 10 in the sprint car ratings. And I would like to be able to do this kind of over the course of all of the races, over the course of seasons, and then you could even do this on individual nightly basis. So I'll probably add those numbers in as well. So I'll get those live and share on social media when those are on there, and people can kind of peruse those and then let me know what they think. I wanted to talk, if you follow me on social media, this is something that I've talked about in a few different instances, but it's something that bothers me, and it's something that I used to kind of have the opposite opinion of this, but over time and in working in motorsports and in kind of understanding things a little bit better, my opinion of this has changed. But the idea of funded drivers and what exactly the definition of funded drivers is, I'm still not quite certain. You kind of get into these discussions about people who buy rides, right? And it's the common cliche is dad's money bought so and so a ride in a sprint car or midget late model modify. I mean, whatever it is. And I've seen some late model discussion lately around a specific team, and it just I don't understand the vitriol from people about drivers buying rides, and if you think this is a new problem, and it's not even a problem, but if you think this is a new phenomenon, it's not. It's been going on probably for as long as motorsports has existed. And one of the things that I don't seem to quite be able to make heads or tails of, there's a fly right now in here, but something I'm not able to kind of make heads or tails of is sports car racing is made up of a good portion of drivers who pay for their rides, and that's in those categories and in those divisions, they call them gentlemen racers. I don't see anyone on social media complaining about gentlemen racers in sports car racing. A good portion of the field at the Daytona 24 paid to be in those cars, and I don't understand why it's okay for that, but it's not okay for other categories, whether it's NASCAR, dirt racing, and other things. And it's one of those things where, like, I understand both sides of it, right? Like, I get that, it's kind of a purity thing, right? Like, it feels like it cheapens things if people are paying for rides and things like that. But, and maybe on some level it probably does, but that's not like... Motorsports is not stick and ball sports. It's not baseball. It's not football. It's not basketball. It's not going to always be the cream of the crop that has the opportunities to go compete. It costs a lot of money to even put a low level race car on the track. So to think that these teams are going to be able to continue to exist without funding is just ludicrous. And a lot of times you're not going to have owners who are going to be able to continue year after year after year funding cars out of their pockets. Most of these teams are not making any money, and so it's a little naive, and I think it's a little ridiculous to think that all of these teams are just going to exist, and nobody's going to be paying for rides, and there's just money flowing everywhere. That's just not the case. And I think the point to realize too is that if a lot of these drivers weren't funding these teams, the teams wouldn't exist. So it's not like these drivers are getting opportunities over, somebody who is more talented but that doesn't have money. That seat wouldn't be there if it weren't for those drivers paying for that seat. Those teams would close up shop. So, I mean, if put yourself in these team owners' situations, in their seats. If you are wanting to field a team, maybe you come in and maybe you have the money to do it to start out. Maybe you have a sponsor, but maybe you lose that sponsor, but you want to keep your team open. An easier way, and if you can go out and find that driver, but a much simpler way to kind of continue to make sure that your team exists, beyond, what you started is to go get somebody who has a little bit of funding to help the team stay alive. So, if you're in that situation, what do? You just close with the team and say, well, for the purity of the sport, I'm not going to continue running this team. Like, that's crap. Like, there's no way that that's the case. And, when drivers fund teams at many different levels, not just the top levels, but, a lot of other levels as well, it keeps people in jobs. It's, it helps out the racing community as a whole. And, I understand that, maybe some of these drivers that are getting these opportunities maybe don't deserve them. Like, that's absolutely possibly the case. But what you will find is over the course of time, when a driver, pays for a ride, if they are not, up to snuff, it's not very long until they're out of the seat anyway. They're either going to, get tired of getting their head kicked in every single day, or, whoever is providing the funding is going to back out and say, this isn't working, you're not performing. Nobody sticks around for many years, 5 years, a decade, continuing to not do well in a car. So I think the thing is that people need to understand that this stuff, like, these drivers will weed themselves out over the course of time, and the cream will always rise to the top. There are plenty of drivers out there who don't have funding and who have made it to the top levels of the sport. I mean, you look at, two of the best right now, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell. Neither of those guys had any money behind them. And it just goes to show you that if you don't have money behind you, you just have to be that much better than everybody else. And if you want to be at the top levels of the sport, that's necessary anyway. If you want to win races, want to win championships, that's what you have to do. And I think that purity of the sport is still there, and it still exists. There are still plenty of team owners that will put drivers in cars, and plenty of manufacturers and other sponsors and things like that will continue to fund guys who do well, who are fast. And so I don't think this problem is as big as some people wanted to make it out to be, and I don't think that it really matters all that much if you've got guys running at the back of a B-main who are in a funded car. Like, it's not going to change the outcome of races. And I don't want to hear about, guys getting wrecked or getting in the way of leaders or things like that. That can happen absolutely anyway, regardless of whether a funded driver is in there or not. So, I've seen both sides of this, and I honestly, I used to feel differently. I used to think that, funded drivers were a problem, that it was hurting racing. But I don't believe that to be the case anymore. And I think more and more having more teams is better than having less teams. And you know what? Once in a while, some of these funded drivers, they're going to turn out to be pretty damn good. So let's keep that in mind as well, that not everybody who buys a ride is just a crap driver, and that's just the end of it. It's just not true. And then where do you draw the line between most kids that get started in racing, whether it's in go-karts or a winged cart or whatever it is, most of those kids have families that are buying those cars, right? Like, no 4-year-old or 5-year-old or 6-year-old is waiting around their local dirt track hoping somebody's going to put them in a go-kart or put them in a in a winged cart or whatever it is. Like, that doesn't happen. And so, like, at what point is it not okay for, a family member or a sponsor or something like that to continue paying for that ride? It's like we draw this line at a certain point. It's like, it's okay for it to be funded up to a point, but then after that, you better just go race on merit. That's ridiculous. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. I just have seen, more discussion about this. And obviously, these are things you've heard from me before if you've, followed me on social media and things like that, because this is just something that really kind of sticks in my craw and it bothers me. So anyway, I will move on. But think about it. Let me know if you have thoughts. I'd be curious to know if other people feel the same way, or if this is just a small portion of the crowd that thinks this way. But anyway, let's jump over to the pay-per-view schedule. Like I said, not a lot of racing going on, so nothing on the pay-per-view schedule tonight. That will kick up again this weekend as we have more racing going on. You can find DIRTRACKR Daily on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or where you get podcasts. Please subscribe, leave me a review, and tell your friends. You can watch the show on YouTube and Facebook as well. If you'd like to follow along with Dirt Tracker, you can do that at facebook.com/DirtTracker, twitter.com/DirtTracker, and DirtTracker.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Justin_Fiedler. Don't forget to sign up for that Dirt Tracker weekly newsletter that is live on the site right now. Just going to be a couple of cool bullet point items, that I've seen through the week, once a week. Not going to spam you, nothing crazy. And if you don't like it, unsubscribe. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But thanks for tuning in to the show today. I will see everyone tomorrow on DIRTRACKR Daily.